Greetings all, and welcome to the 20th episode of TM Technical Movement. For today, we'll be taking a look at the Peck, Pluck, Drill Peck, Wing Attack, Dual Wingbeat, Fly, Aerial Ace, Sky Drop, Acrobatics, Sky Attack, and Brave Bird attacks.
In short, the Peck attack is a sharp jab by either a beak or a pointed appendage towards an offending target. Although it may be as simple, if not simpler to use, than a tackle or scratch attack, the Peck attack is fairly specific in that it requires the user to have not only a sharp beak or horn, but also be able to use it as a forceful instrument of light and precise piercing trauma. As such, birds with fairly small weak beaks cannot utilize the attack in battle, nor can Pokémon that cannot strike with considerable piercing force using their pointed appendage of choice. Above all though, the attack seems to be one of choice. Pokémon that are able to defend themselves via some other means that would otherwise fall under this attack's specifications seem to prefer using some other form of offense instead of the Peck attack. In many cases, this is likely because the Peck attack forces the user to place one of its most vulnerable body parts, namely its face, into harm's way. For others, the reason is less clear. In summation though, the Peck attack is a simple enough attack for young trainers to utilize without much difficulty, but its lack in power makes it a poor choice among professional battles. Since an opponent must use a pointed appendage of some sort to execute a Peck attack, striking the pointed appendage can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack. Otherwise, however, it is extremely difficult to dodge the attack in close quarters. Armor can help reduce and even negate the damage dealt by the attack, but damage dealt might be more severe if the attack is delivered through a crack or joint within said armor. Overall, the Peck attack is a fairly weak attack that has little use outside friendly battles or emergency situations, and should not be considered a primary threat in most cases. If anything else, it should be taken as a sign of desperation in professional battle, and should mean the opposition is low on stamina and likely close to being defeated. Similar to the Peck attack, the Pluck attack involves the user attacking a target through a sharp jab with either a beak or a pointed appendage of some sort. Although the Pluck attack is performed in the exact same manner as the traditional Peck attack, the blow delivered in the attack is nearly twice as harsh as that in a Peck attack, and takes a considerably larger amount of stamina to use. However, the move is much more useful than a Peck attack, in that it is performed on the run, otherwise done while the user is moving with the opponent clearly within the path of travel. Aside from allowing some breathing room to be generated between the user and the target, the move allows the Pokémon to accurately strike the target hard enough to cause it to lose hold of a held berry. The berry is then promptly devoured by the user, in turn gaining its full effects before they would otherwise be needed, before the user quickly retreats to a safe distance. Pokémon that learn the Pluck attack seem to be smart enough to understand the difference between a berry and an otherwise non-organic object of similar size, so there's rarely any chance of internal injury from swallowing an indigestible object. This, along with the fact that the attack is easily taught to Pokémon that normally can't even learn the basic Peck attack, has made the move particularly popular among trainers to enjoy using their opponent's strategies to their own advantage, despite the fact that only a few types of Pokémon learn it naturally. Not surprisingly, this popularity spurred Silph to release the attack as Team 88 within their 4th and 5th generation line of TMs. It is interesting to note that the Bug Bite attack had remarkably similar qualities and was also considered to be the position of TM88, but its general limitation to Bug-type Pokémon made it a poor choice in comparison to the Pluck attack. Regardless, the move seemed to have lost favor in tournament battles and base use overall after this, which led Silph to discontinue the move as a TM, only to bring the TM back within the recent Sinnoh Special Edition set. Since an opponent must use a pointed appendage of some sort to execute a Pluck attack, striking the pointed appendage can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack. Otherwise, it is extremely difficult to dodge the attack in close quarters. Armor can help reduce and even negate the damage dealt by the attack, but the damage might be more severe if the attack is delivered through a crack or joint within said armor. The Pluck attack is primarily designed to simply mess with opponents that try to be prepared for dangerous situations in battle, otherwise utilize items like lychee berries to form potent strategies. As such, the best way to negate its effectiveness is to simply focus on strategies that don't rely on berries for assistance, as its moderate damage potential is nothing that decent defenses cannot handle. The Drill Peck attack is a powerful pecking strike with some sort of beak while either the user is rotating in a corkscrew-like fashion, or while the beak itself is rotating. Unlike most moves, the Drill Peck attack is slightly versatile in that it can actually be performed in one of two manners. For most birds, the attack is performed while steeply diving towards the opponent and rotating the entire body rapidly like a corkscrew. While this means that the attack requires some time to prepare before enough height is reached to make the resulting impact effective, it also grants the attack a significant increase in damage capabilities, because it's delivered with the full weight of the user, and enables the user to strike any opponent on the battlefield regardless of distance. The other case generally applies to the members of the Doduo family is a bit strange. While double joints are not uncommon among life forms in nature, Doduo and Dodrio possess a unique triple joint system within the connective tissue between their beaks and their skulls. To put things simply, this triple joint system allows these birds to rotate their beaks at exceptionally high speeds, and turn allowing them to use devastating moves like the Drill Peck attack. This gives the advantage of easy maneuverability, but also takes a bit away from the move's overall power. Regardless, the properties of the Drill Peck attack are the same for all creatures in that the combination of piercing and rotational forces is absolutely devastating to unarmored creatures. So much so in fact that the attack is sometimes banned in small tournaments, and can oftentimes leave them more bloodied and beaten than they would get from being hit by a Brave Bird attack. Although the attack can only be naturally learned by a few species of Pokemon, there is no doubt that the attack is a favorite move among those who have access to it and can more often than not turn the tide in any battle. Unlike similar attacks, attacking the beak of an opponent to stop a Drill Peck attack is unwise because of how fast it's actually rotating, and making it one of the few close quarters attacks that is virtually impossible to physically counter and extremely difficult to dodge in close quarters. Strong armor in general can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack, but weaker armor is unlikely to perform as well without sustaining critical damage or failing altogether. Moreover, the damage will oftentimes be much more severe if the attack is delivered through a crack or joint in said armor. Since the number of Pokemon capable of learning the move is fairly limited, it shouldn't be too hard to know when the Drill Peck attack might be something to look out for. If caught off guard, however, there's unfortunately little that can be done to prevent serious physical damage other than using a Pokemon with strong defenses and attacking with projectile attacks to disrupt the move's execution. Much as its name suggests, the wing attack involves striking the opponent harshly with widely spread wings to inflict moderate physical damage. Although many young bird Pokemon are able to utilize attacks like Peck to defend themselves at a young age, the wing attack is also a fairly common move that many flying types in general gain the ability to use fairly early on in their development. The wing attack itself involves attacking a target with an outstretched wing and is a bit more useful than other physical attacks because it not only provides the user some needed space from the opponent, but also can be executed freely in the air without much threat to the user, and making it a classic move for aerial battles and enabling a Pokemon to freely strike any target in battle regardless of how far away they are. Generally, however, the actual strength and reach of the wing attack will depend on the size of the user's wings, so Pokemon like Pidgeotto and Dragonite will be unable to make much use of the attack except when in particularly close quarters. Nonetheless, the move is really difficult to avoid and is quite effective at distancing and hurting bug, grass, and fire types alike, and can be executed elegantly for the same amount of stamina as a weak Peck attack. The only disadvantage the attack really has is that it still requires the user to get close to an opponent to use it, but if used as a surprise attack, the issue can be completely negated. Since an opponent must utilize his own wings in order to execute a wing attack, striking otherwise damaging said wings can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack. Otherwise, however, the attack can be extremely difficult to dodge in close quarters. Armor can, however, help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack. Overall, the wing attack is not likely to be seen in many professional battles because of its only moderate damage capabilities, but its ability to deal decent damage for almost no stamina nonetheless makes it a worthwhile move to keep an eye out for during aerial battles. Much as its name also suggests, the dual Wingbeat attack involves the user striking with large spread wings twice in rapid succession. The dual Wingbeat attack is a rare move that is usually only acquired by Pokemon through interactions with special move tutors or TMs, available in select places across the globe, as well as other artificial means, though it is accessible to a few limited species in the wild naturally. As the name suggests, a dual Wingbeat attack is exactly what it sounds like, a dual strike involving an individual's large spread wings, delivered as powerful downward swing strikes designed to inflict damage on the opposition twice before any sort of counterattack can be made. While the time between each individual strike is too short for the opponent to halt the attack, the dual Wingbeat attack is only moderately damaging at most and is fairly costly in terms of stamina, so its uses are somewhat limited. In addition, the fact that only Pokemon with large powerful wings can learn it and use it effectively makes it a quirky attack, though it can still make for a decent flying type physical strike when used correctly. It is lastly noted that because the attack actually strikes multiple times in a short period of time, it can be used to override the effects of the sturdy ability and items like the Focus Sash or Focus Band, as well as amplify the effects of the weak armor ability, a useful attribute that might explain why it was chosen to be TM-197 and Silph-Co's 9th generation line of TMs. While attacking the opposition's wings before they can connect with a dual Wingbeat attack can help protect against damage, it is better to risk dodging the attack completely, considering that the damage dealt by the attack will either be all or nothing. Moderately agile Pokemon should have no trouble doing so in close quarters. Armor can additionally help reduce and negate the damage dealt by this attack. Unlike other multi-strike attacks, the relatively high base power of the dual Wingbeat attack can prove to be a threat against opponents with abilities like sturdy and weak armor, or those who are holding items like the Focus Sash or Focus Band, so exceptional caution should be taken when attempting to counter this move in any situation. Even so, though, the chances of it making a serious impact are still fairly low. As one would imagine from its name, the Fly attack involves flying high up into the sky before coming straight down onto an opponent at high speed. In a sense, the Fly attack could almost be considered to be the polar opposite of the Dig attack. Only Pokemon that have the capacity to fly can actually execute the attack, but the range is varied enough that the move is practically universal among trainers of all walks of life. The Fly attack itself effectively consists of two attack phases. During the first phase, the user flies high into the sky and away from an opponent. At this point, the opposition cannot directly attack the user with almost any type of attack. The second phase involves the user flying downward rapidly and striking the opposition head-on with the full force of their body weight. This strike is surprisingly powerful and is able to inflict considerable physical trauma, but what makes it truly useful is that it can be executed in almost any type of foreseeable environment or weather conditions, depending upon the user's resistance against weather conditions such as hail and sandstorms. Unfortunately, Pokemon still within the first phase of Fly Attack can still be hit if they are previously targeted by Pokemon with a technique such as the Lock or a Mind Reader move, and can still be damaged by Thunder, Gust, Twister, Hurricane, Sky Uppercut, and Thousand Arrows attacks, and blown away by the Whirlwind technique. Moreover, they receive twice as much damage from Gust, Twister, and Thousand Arrow attacks while airborne, and will be knocked down back to the ground by a Smackdown attack. Even so, the attack's high damage potential and high accuracy rate makes it a great move for any trainer to have access to in battle when fighting against Grass, Bug, or Fire-type Pokemon. Sadly, only a small number of Pokemon can actually learn the Fly Attack naturally. As a result, the attack almost never made it to daylight on the mass technical market because of its unusual rarity. Thankfully, Silphco realized that the attack, aside from its exceptional combat specialties, carried with it one extremely profitable attribute. Pokemon that could utilize the attack in battle have the capacity to carry not only objects, but entire people across massive distances within a fairly short period of time. The company's researchers saw the move as a potential answer to all mobility crises for the trainers that are otherwise lost or need to go somewhere quickly, even if it was miles away, and decided to include it within their first generation line of TMs and HMs, but they were unsure whether to make it a TM or an HM. Since the entire project was highly experimental and it was unknown if it would even work, the move was released as a rare HM, HM02. As with other HMs, the expensive devices proved to be difficult to market at first, but once more and more trainers started to realize how useful it would be to be able to travel across any part of the globe within almost no time at all, the devices began selling faster than the company could produce them. As a consequence, the Fly Attack remained HM02 up until discontinuation of all HMs and the company's 7th generation line, remaining perhaps one of, if not the most profitable HM ever developed by the company. Even with this discontinuation, the move was not forgotten, and instead converted into TM76 for the 7th generation line of TMs, TM14 in the console special edition set, TM06 in the 8th generation line, TM94 in the recent Sinnoh special edition set, and TM97 in the 9th generation line. Since an opponent has the benefit of being able to fly far away from the range of moves during the Fly Attack's first phase, and it's extremely hard to counter the move physically, though exceptionally agile Pokemon can still dodge the attack with enough room. Strong armor in general can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack, but weaker armor is unlikely to perform as well on its own without sustaining critical damage or failing altogether. The Fly Attack is likely a move that will be seen far more outside of battle than inside because of its inherent weaknesses and imperfect accuracy rate, but the amount of damage it can do is still severe enough that any Pokemon that has wings or at least possesses the capacity to fly should be immobilized as quickly as possible to negate the possibility of it being used in battle. If this is not a viable strategy, then the only way to truly counter the move aside from just relying on strong defenses for support is to use a move that can strike them high in the sky and in turn exploit the attack's technical weaknesses. In effect, the aerial ace attack involves user moving at exceptional speed towards the opposition before rapidly striking out before they can even react. The aerial ace attack is a moderately damaging but otherwise powerful move that can easily confound and confuse the opposition and leave them wondering exactly what hit them. In an aerial ace attack, the user begins by moving towards and around the opposition exceptionally fast, so fast in fact that they cannot actually be tracked by any normal set of eyes. Once they are close enough to the target and officially moving too fast to be tracked, the user will then lash out harshly with a wing or bladed implement while accelerating to the point where the actual attack cannot be seen, cutting through the air and their target before returning to the user's side of the battlefield as if the attack never happened at all. The exact way in which this bodily acceleration is achieved varies among different species, but a brief burst of movement from stored energy is usually the primary energy source behind it. Because this attack is delivered too quickly for nearly all Pokemon to register, the move is considered to be one of the few known to have a perfect accuracy rate and is absolutely impossible to dodge unless the target has otherwise left the battlefield completely for a fly or dig attack. Moreover, the speeds used in the attack are high enough that the user can easily strike an opponent on the battlefield regardless of how far away they are, in turn making any creature even involved in a battle a potential target. This makes the aerial ace attack a great all-purpose tool that even the most frustrating defensive strategists will not be able to easily remedy, a trait that made the move more than worthwhile in the eyes of Silphco. After releasing the move as TM40 within the 3rd generation line of TMs, the company quickly realized that they had a gold mine on their hands and continued to reproduce the move within all successive generations, only becoming TM27 in the 9th generation line as a numerical change, making it one of the most popular TMs to date. Due to its unique properties, it is extremely difficult to physically counter the aerial ace attack and almost impossible to dodge it. Armor can, however, help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack. The aerial ace attack's moderate damage capacity only belittles the sheer devastation it can cause among teams that prefer to use accuracy and evasion differences to their advantage, but since dodging is out of the question, the only tactics that can be taken against it are to bring out a Pokemon with sturdy armor, or at the very least one that has high enough defenses to take the blow with little trouble. In effect, and as one might imagine, the Skydrop attack involves user picking up the target and lifting it high into the air before releasing it and allowing the target to crash down back into the ground. The Skydrop attack is a rare move learned only by a limited number of Pokemon as a result of their ability to lift enormous loads when fly without limiting the flight capabilities in the slightest. A Sky Drop attack essentially consists of two separate phases. In the first phase, the user picks up the target and lifts it high into the sky and far away from the ground. During this phase, both the user and the target in the case of this move are still susceptible to damage from Gust, Twist, Thunder, Hurricane, Sky Uppercut, and Smackdown attacks, and will take double damage from the Thousand Arrows attack, but are otherwise completely invulnerable to attack, and the opposition is completely incapable of moving. In the second phase, the user merely drops the opponent, allowing it to crash into the ground and receive minor damage. While it might be simple and effective to most, the Sky Drop attack is limited in that it will be unable to actually deal damage in the second phase to flying types or Pokemon with the Levitate ability. It is further noted that the Pokemon using the move can only lift objects of a certain mass, as anything that weighs 200 kilograms or more cannot be lifted to use this attack. Even so, the capacity to wreck an opponent's time strategy can make the otherwise moderately powerful move a weapon worth looking out for in battle. It was for this reason that Silph Co decided to release the move as TM58 within their 5th through 7th generation line of TMs, from which it gained a steady cold following among professional trainers before being discontinued in the following generation. Due to its unique attributes, there is no way to directly counter-dodge the Sky Drop attack without using a move like Smackdown to force its end immediately after execution. Armor can, however, help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack. The Sky Drop attack is not powerful enough to be a serious threat or even a likely move to see in many battles, but when some time needs to be bought, this attack can easily make an opponent happy and should be countered with decent defenses and Pokemon that have a fly type assignment, the Levitate ability, or are simply too heavy to be lifted to completely nullify its damaging effects. In essence, the Acrobatics attack involves user nimbly dashing or flying around the target before striking them. The Acrobatics attack is a specialized move designed to enable the user to strike an opponent with great force when they no longer have an item to defend themselves with in battle. In effect, the Acrobatics attack involves user flying or otherwise dashing around the opponent nimbly and precisely in order to daze them before going in for a potent physical strike. Although it technically could be considered to be a normal type attack in nature, its proficient use among flying types is the reason why it is commonly assigned as a flying type attack. While the Acrobatics attack is only somewhat powerful if the user is holding an item, when this is not the case, the user will be able to build up much more speed in their own movements than usual and will be able to strike the opponent with much greater force, in turn doubling the attack's base power. This may make the attack a detriment to most trainers who rely on held items in their strategies, but for those who prefer to fly by the seat of their pants, this attack can easily prove to be a major issue among Pokemon of all types when no held items are present to slow the user down, especially since it can hit just about anyone on the battlefield. It was for this reason that Silph Co decided to release the move as TM62 within their 5th through 7th generation line of TMs, TM78 in the 8th generation line, and TM14 in the 9th generation line, from which it has gained a steady cold following among professional trainers. Since the actual execution style of the move varies among Pokemon, there is no way to directly counter-dodge the Acrobatics attack. Strong armor in general can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack, but weaker armor is unlikely to perform as well without sustaining critical damage or failing altogether when the attack is at maximum power. The Acrobatics attack's sheer versatility among basic combatants will make its use quite common among Pokemon that otherwise have no way to form a special strategy with a particular held item, or at the very least among trainers that don't see a reason to use many held items. As such, the only real way to reduce the attack's effectiveness, aside from strong defenses, is to somehow give the opposition an item to slow them down. The Sky Attack is effectively a bird-shaped blast of energy that carries with it the attributes of a physical attack at the expense of an extended energy charge and a little bit of accuracy. Although only a few flying-type Pokemon have the ability to naturally learn the Sky Attack, those that can usually have more than enough power to make use of the attack in any battle situation. In effect, the Sky Attack consists of two distinct phases. During the first phase, the user energizes his body and generates a micron-thick layer of matter over their bodies that acts as a shell that can then imbue with an enormous amount of gathered energy. During this phase, the user oftentimes begins to glow very brightly, even to the point where it becomes impossible to see them. In the second phase, the user bundles the energy together within the shell of material they created, and launches both shell and energy simultaneously as a single projectile enveloped in a torrent of wind, the primary attribute that defines it as a flying type attack, which in turn hurtles towards the opponent before exploding upon contact in a huge shower of light. The stamina required for the attack is fairly high, and the significant amount of time needed to charge the attack makes it less than accurate on even a good day, but the sheer amount of damage it is able to deal is more than enough to make it worth risking if a miracle is needed to win a battle. Interestingly enough, because the attack is delivered within a shell of matter, the move actually has the properties of a physical attack and not a special attack, and is further able to be affected by items like King's Rocks, so it's more than viable in a tournament setting. More importantly, the massive explosion of light that follows the attack has tremendous stopping power and not only possesses a heightened chance of scoring a critical hit, but can also cause the opponent to flinch about 30% of the time, in turn setting up the user for yet another brilliant blast of devastation. These traits are what caused Silph Co to release the move as TM43 within the first generation line of TMs, but its tremendous power was deemed to be unfair in tournament settings, so it was quickly discontinued afterwards. Since mere contact with a projectile utilized in a Sky Attack can cause it to explode, physically countering the move is virtually impossible. Thankfully, even moderately agile Pokemon can still dodge the attack with enough room. Strong armor in general can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack, but weaker armor is unlikely to perform as well on its own without sustaining critical damage or failing altogether. The Sky Attack is likely to only be a move of last resort in any battle, but its ability to inflict tremendous amounts of damage against any opponent makes it a dire threat that should be properly countered with strong defenses, protection against flinching and critical hits, and the highest of evasive tactics at all times. Similar to the double-edged attack, the Brave Bird attack is a violent full-body tackle delivered while the user is diving head down from a low altitude with such force that could potentially break the user's internal structure, potentially inflicting lethal damage on both sides in the process. Although the Brave Bird attack is practically identical to the takedown attack, in that it's a reckless tackle that causes a considerable amount of force delivered to be inflicted inward in the form of a concussive backlash, and thus inflicting 33.33% of the damage done back onto the user in the form of recoil, the Brave Bird attack is exceptionally risky and should probably be avoided in battle if at all possible. For one thing, the Brave Bird attack is far more powerful because the user is not simply throwing its entire body at the opponent without care, it's doing it deliberately. As a result, the Pokémon using the attack can build up considerably more momentum and maintain it throughout the duration of the attack, delivering devastating amounts of damage in the process. While this makes the attack even more accurate than a standard tackle attack, it also places the user in more danger than most trainers actually realize. In short, the sheer force delivered with a Brave Bird attack is often enough to actually damage or even shatter the internal framework of the user, placing them in life-threatening danger every time the move is used. The attack is truly one of desperation and is rarely used by trainers unless they are fully confident about the Pokemon's abilities, but even then they can never truly be certain, as the Brave Bird attack's method of execution differs from Pokemon to Pokemon and from moment to moment. The move can certainly deal tremendous amounts of damage accurately and for relatively little stamina, but for what it's worth, it's still probably a better choice to rely on other moves unless no other option is available, though this did little to stop Silph from converting it into TR-66 for the first line of TRs, and then TM-164 for the 9th generation line of TMs. In truth, this means that the double-edged attack and the Brave Bird attack are virtually the same move. The only real difference is that the Brave Bird attack is delivered while the user tucks in its wings and charges headfirst into the target from a low altitude. While this does nothing to change the general structure of the attack, aside from the fact that it enables the user to strike opponents across the entire breadth of the battlefield, it does grant the same physical properties possessed by other flying-type moves and is thus classified as such. Since the Brave Bird attack involves a full-body charge, it is fairly difficult to counter the move with physical force alone, which is only made worse by the fact that it is also extremely difficult to dodge in close quarters. Strong armor in general, however, can help reduce and negate the damage dealt by the attack, but weaker armor is unlikely to perform as well without sustaining critical damage or failing altogether. Overall, the Brave Bird attack is an extremely risky move that forces trainers to put the well-being of their own Pokémon in danger to deal large amounts of damage, so it's unlikely that it will be seen outside of fairly desperate situations unless the opponent is fairly risky to begin with. Even so, Pokémon with strong defenses and heavy armor are heavily recommended for taking the brunt of the attack's force, as unarmored Pokémon are likely to take catastrophic damage when the attack connects.
That's it for this episode, so stay tuned for the next episode of TM Technical Movement. Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.